It's a dangerous drug that many once thought was just a rural problem, but Michigan State Police tells 6 News that meth is migrating into urban and suburban areas, including cities just like Lansing.
In part one of a 2-part special report, Emerald Morrow will talk to a state police official who explains why this shift is happening and how it's devastating so many lives.
It's so addicting.
It speeds up the system.
Crystal meth.
It causes paranoia.
Devastating.
They'll start to see things.
It's high crystal meth.
Paranoia.
It's so addictive.
Crystal meth. Paranoia.
With meth, they say your first high is your best high. And when that high comes down, all you think about is your next hit.
You have high. You know, it's the speed, the rush.
Meth labs have long had a reputation for being a rural problem, but officials say they're creeping into cities and suburbs. And it could be coming to a home near you. A phenomenon this woman knows all too well.
It's so devastating, traumatic. I feel like I've lost my future.
For 3 months, a woman we'll call Mary Ann has been sleeping on her sister's couch. She was kicked out of her Delta Township home in November after police found out her 45-year-old son was running a meth lab in her basement.
I break down and cry quite a bit. It's like I've been in a nightmare throughout this whole thing. And then again, I think, oh my gosh, you know, I could have been in there. The house could have blown up.
2 meth labs, one discovered last night and the other is believed to have sparked a fire early this morning.
Something state police say is happening more and more as meth moves in.
In this area specifically, what we're seeing with this newer shake and bake or one-pot method to produce meth is we're seeing a lot more of it in the cities. And I know that this is true elsewhere in the state, but for example, we've seen and dealt with a number of labs right in the city of Lansing, where in years past they were mostly out in the rural or more suburban areas, but generally the rural areas. So we're seeing a lot more of them in the city, and they've been resulting many times in fires and explosions.
What do you think caused this shift from rural areas to urban areas?
It only takes a short time to produce now. The odors from the chemicals aren't as pronounced as they were before. When it takes 2 or 3 hours and you've got some really significant chemical smells, it's a lot easier for people to detect. But if you're only doing it for 20 minutes and it's done, it makes it a lot less likely for your neighbors to smell the odor.
Tri-County Metro Narcotics Squad Lieutenant Timothy Gill says meth has made a big comeback over the last few years. In 2007, there were 202 meth incidents across the state. Last year, that number was 553, more than double. And this year, officials say at least 4 meth labs in our area have already exploded. Explosions that shake victims and neighbors, both physically and mentally.
I'm so hurt, very hurt. And yes, I am angry.
Her son's meth habits contaminated her entire house.
Countertops, the kitchen, the flooring, the carpet, everything.
At 68 years old, Mary Ann was hoping to enjoy the golden years, but after spending thousands to have a specialist decontaminate her home, she fears that may never happen.
It's financially devastating. It's ruined you. It's ruined me. I cannot retire anymore. I would have to work.
Getting rid of meth residue is an expensive and time-consuming process. A process Cam Bradman of BioClean team walked me through as he cleaned Mary Ann's home.
What we're walking into, you'll notice a little bit of an odor. That's our product.
That product is the only liquid decontaminant that changes the molecular structure of crystal meth.
And we apply this over all cubic volume of the house. Every surface, ventilation system, drawer, door, the whole deal.
The woman who owns the house lives here, and has really nowhere else to turn. She has to come back to her house because she has nowhere to go. And this is her life.
And even thinking when I go back to live in my house, what the neighbors gonna think? What are they thinking to hear their beautiful subdivision, you know, would bring down their property value?
It's just an amazing story, Emerald.
What started as a trip to tend to a sick son ended with a note that changed this woman's life forever.
When we came back November 2nd, I found my house red tagged. My other son had been in my house and apparently was doing meth.
He wasn't just doing meth, he was also making it, an action that forced a woman we'll call Mary Ann out of her home and into her sister's.
Are you sleeping on the couch here?
Yes, it's my bed.
It's been that way for the last 3 months. And it will stay that way until specialists get rid of all the traces of meth in her home.
This product changes the molecular structure of meth and it just breaks it apart.
After every crevice is soaked, the product works to eliminate the microscopic meth residue that's settled throughout the home.
Everything gets contaminated. Countertops, the kitchen, the flooring, the carpet, everything.
Get the couch, brand new.
Brand new couch, furniture. I've been divorced since 1981. I've done this all on my own, nobody's help. And I was so proud that I could do this, you know, and have new furniture after 20-some years. It's like I patted myself on the back and all of a sudden, this is all taken away.
As a homeowner, 68-year-old Mary Ann assumes the cost of hiring a specialist to clean up the meth. And since November, she says she's drained her bank account trying to once again make her house a home.
I'm elderly and I was going to retire, but financially it's taking quite a bit to restore my house to being livable again. Hopefully I can keep the house. I've only lived in the house for 2.5 years. It's a new home to me. So there's a mortgage, you know.
A mortgage that may become more difficult to pay as costs for restoring her home continue to grow.
Would you ever consider selling your home? Have you thought about that? And
Yes, I have. Let me tell you, there are 3 homes up on the market in about the same price range. You think somebody would buy my house that's been affected with this contamination? They would pick one of the other 2. Wouldn't you?
A good question to ask, but one I wasn't sure I could answer, because when it comes to meth, Michigan is one of the only states that does not make homeowners, landlords, or hotels disclose their property's dark past.
Well, it's certainly something that maybe Michigan or our legislators could or should look into. And certainly there are a number of our legislators that are very attuned to this issue, that have been involved in it. And I'm not certain what those discussions are at the present time, but that's certainly something that could be looked at.
do you think that a renter, though, should have the right to know whether or not the home was?
I think that anybody, whether it be a motel or an apartment or a home, should know if there are any dangerous chemicals that were put there by a meth lab. Yes, absolutely.
According to the Scripps Howard Foundation, 28 states make home sellers and real estate agents tell buyers of prior meth contamination. 17 states require landlords to tell renters, and 14 states make hotels notify their guests. But as of right now, Michigan has none of these requirements. So what do property owners have to disclose?
The seller disclosure form describes the property and the condition of the property and the time that they lived there. There is a section for environmental conditions. If any environmental problems are known, that it should be disclosed and described.
But what if the meth lab existed and was never caught.
There is also some language at the bottom of the form, right above the signature line in all bold and capital letters, that talks about how the prospective homeowner might want to test that home's indoor and outdoor air and water quality to see what it is that they're moving into.
Crystal methamphetamine addiction, it touches so many more people than just the person that's using it. It's not a victimless crime.
I'm so weak right now. I'm frail. My spirit's gone. I was comfortable. I mean, I was even thinking, oh, pretty soon I could retire. But that's gone. That part of it's gone too. The later part, the golden years. I don't know what that is. I'll never see it, I don't think.
Well, you know, your heart really goes out to a woman in that type of situation. So if I'm going to rent a home and the landlord has no knowledge of meth abuse in the property, is there really a way that I can get the home tested before I move in?
Well, it's something that most people don't think about, but the answer is actually yes. There are companies that provide testing services that will sample materials in the home to test for meth residue. So the cost can vary, so you would need to check with your realtor or your insurance company about what options are best for you.
All right, very good, very interesting.
Yep, buyer beware.
Thank you.
Thanks, Emerald.